Hello everyone, Jason here, back with another video for you guys. So there's been a lot going on in the past few days with regards to Syria, and it looks like the Western powers are gearing up for war with Syria right now. And I guess I'll just get right to the breaking news from this morning. Donald Trump announced in a tweet early this morning at around 4 a.m. that he was actually planning, or he threatened Russia directly, that he was going to be sending missiles. Here, I'll just read the tweet for you guys. Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming nice and new and smart. You shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it. So this takes us back to Saturday when there was a alleged gas attack in Douma, Syria. That's what Trump's referring to here when he's calling Assad a gas-killing animal. And as far as this gas-killing animal goes, the official story is that Assad used chemical weapons, which he didn't have, to attack his own people at a time when he was about to win the civil war, in a chemical weapons attack which left no traces of chemical weapons on any of the supposed victims. So clearly there's some questions that need to be answered. There is no credible evidence coming out of Syria at all whatsoever that there were actually any chemical weapons of any type used. There's just, the evidence is not there. All we've got is a little video from the white helmets, and I'm not going to get into the white helmets here, but they are pretty much a bunch of actors that put out propaganda. They've been caught on many occasions, and I'm not going to get into it here, so moving on. The interesting thing, on Monday, Carlson actually, I don't know what's going on here. This is probably going to blow your mind, but Tucker Carlson on Fox News just blew the lid on this false flag completely wide open. So I'm just going to give you, let's listen to a clip of Lindsey Graham was on Fox News right before Tucker Carlson. So I'm just going to play that. You'll get the propaganda straight from the horse's mouth, the pro-war propaganda. So here we go.
Okay, I want to ask you quickly about Syria. In the wake of the chemical attack last week, the president has publicly called out Putin, Russia, Iran for their involvement. Tonight, your colleague, Senator Mike Lee, had this to say. He says, if we do put together a response for them, he says, if the response is going to include military force, the president of the United States should come to Congress and ask for authorization before military force is used. What's your take?
I think Mike Lee's been wrong about almost everything related to this war, and I like him a lot. The Congress declares war. The president can't do that. We've only had 5 declarations of war in the history of the country. The president, as commander-in-chief, has all the authority he needs under Article 2 to go after enemies of this nation. How many people, Mike, does a guy have to kill by chlorine gas until the world gets upset? The president can't rely on the United Nations. It's a feckless body when it comes to rogue regimes.
They're vote tomorrow.
Yeah, but what will they vote?
Think?
Nothing will happen. The only thing that can happen is for President Trump to lead a coalition of the willing, the Arabs and Europeans, to go in and destroy every air base that Assad owns. If I were president, there would be no runway available to the Syrian Air Force. There'd be no planes available, and I'd make Assad a target because he's a war criminal. So this president, Donald Trump, has brought North Korea to the table because he's been tough. This president's got the Iranians worried because he's tough. Here's what he has to accomplish. Kim Jong-un has to look at what he does in Syria and say to himself, I don't want to cross Donald Trump. Look at what happened to Assad. If it's one and done, if it's not part of a comprehensive strategy against Assad, then you're going to embolden every bad actor on the planet, including North Korea and the Iranians. This is a defining moment for the president. Take this guy on, blow his Air Force to smithereens, and go after him. The next thing you know, the world will be a better place.
World will be a better place. Yeah, so there you go. This is pretty ridiculous. I guess I don't know what it is about these neocons thinking that bombs and killing and war makes the world a better place. We've got Vladimir Putin threatening to take military action against us if we do invade or even strike Syria, and that's not a very pretty picture to envision, but that's the picture they want to see. At least we still have one voice of reason, it appears. I don't know what's going on here at Fox News, but you guys gotta have a listen here to Tucker Carlson. He came on immediately after Lindsey Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Leaders on both sides of the aisle in Congress, in the media, in our intelligence services, in virtually every overfunded think tank in Washington, have suddenly aligned tonight on a single point of agreement. America must go to war in Syria immediately. Bashar al-Assad cannot continue to lead that country. He must be overthrown. Assad is an evil man, they tell us. His latest crime is a chlorine gas attack carried out over the weekend by his forces against a rebel-held suburb of Damascus. Assad's poison gas suffocated children. Pictures of the aftermath of that are all over the internet, and they are horrifying. Assad is a monster. That's the official story. Almost everyone in power claims to believe it. The push to war in Syria, by the way, has united politicians from both sides. Lindsey Graham and Howard Dean typically agree on very little. Not much at all. But today they are both calling for war in Syria. Graham is demanding massive attacks on the Syrian military. Dean is going even further than that. On Twitter, he called the president, quote, a wimp for merely sending thousands of troops and launching tons of bombs at Syria. That's not enough for Howard Dean, who, as you may remember, once ran for president as the peace candidate. Tonight, he wants total war in Syria. Television pundits, of course, strongly agree. This morning, the foreign policy team over on MSNBC explained that it's far more important for American troops to fight in Syria than it is to secure our own border here in America. Trump has to take action in Syria, everyone nods sagely. That ought to make you nervous. Universal bipartisan agreement on anything is usually the first sign that something deeply unwise is about to happen, if only because there is nobody left to ask skeptical questions. And we should be skeptical of this, starting with the poison gas attack itself. All the geniuses tell us that Assad killed those children. But do they really know that? Of course they don't really know that. They're making it up. They have no real idea what happened. Actually, both sides in the Syrian civil war possess chemical weapons. How would it benefit Assad using chlorine gas last weekend? Well, it wouldn't. Assad's forces have been winning the war in Syria. The administration just announced its plans to pull American troops out of Syria, having vanquished ISIS. That's good news for Assad, and about the only thing he could do to reverse it and to hurt himself would be to use poison gas against children. Well, he did it anyway, they tell us. He's that evil. Please. Keep in mind, this is the same story they told us last April. Do you remember that? It was almost exactly a year ago. The new administration announced it was no longer seeking to depose Assad from power. Regime change was no longer our policy. So the usual war chorus in Washington started yelping, went berserk, and days later, Assad supposedly used sarin gas against civilians in Syria. There was video. We bombed a Syrian airbase in response to that. At the time, this show asked what seemed like the obvious question, are we really sure that Assad did that? It seems weirdly timed and counterproductive to him. Shut up, they explained. Of course we're sure. What an unpatriotic question. But of course they were lying. 2 months ago, the Secretary of Defense admitted that actually we still have no proof that Assad used sarin gas last year. The story, it turns out, was propaganda. It was designed to manipulate Americans, just like so much of what they say. We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends.
We've seen this movie before, and we know how it ends. They lied. Yeah, okay, so he came about as close to calling the gas attack what it really was without saying the word. I don't know about you guys, but that blows my mind. Tucker Carlson has not been kicked off of Fox News yet, and he has not shut up about talking against the potential with war with Syria here. He appears to be the only mainstream media personality in the entire country that is any voice of dissent here. So props to Tucker Carl. I've got to say thank you for that. Not really too sure what's going on with Tucker Carlson, but appreciate the honesty there, and hopefully a lot more Americans are going to start waking up from that, and hopefully he'll stay on Fox News and keep speaking out against this neocon war agenda on behalf of humanity. So now let's go back in time a little bit, because Russia actually on March 17th warned the world that this was going to happen. So let's just go back and take a look at that. Because this has been in the works for a long time, and like Tucker pointed out, this isn't the first time this happened. This is now at least the third false flag being repeated in the same exact manner, same exact script, same exact pretty much everything. Anyway, on March 17th, the Russian Defense Ministry warned that U.S. naval strike groups were preparing for a possible attack on Syria, and that U.S. instructors had trained rebel militant groups in Syria to stage false flag chemical weapon attacks. Here are the comments themselves from the defense minister. We note the evidence of preparation for possible attacks. Strike groups of naval carriers with cruise missiles are being formed in the eastern part of the Mediterranean, in the Persian Gulf, and in the Red Sea. Chief of the main operational directorate of the Russian General Staff, Colonel General Sergei Rutsky, said, "We have reliable information at our disposal that U.S. instructors have trained a number of militant groups in the vicinity of the town of Atanf to stage provocations involving chemical warfare agents in southern Syria," the general said. Early in March, the saboteur groups were deployed to the southern de-escalation zone to the city of Daraa, where the units of the so-called Free Syrian Army are stationed. They are preparing a series of chemical munitions explosions. This fact will be used to blame the government forces. The components to produce chemical munitions have been already delivered to the southern de-escalation zone under the guise of humanitarian convoys of a number of NGOs. On April 6, another Russian official warned that U.S.-backed rebel groups in the region were planning to stage or carry out chemical attacks with the use of chlorine in areas under their control in order to blame government troops, just as was described above. Here are the quotes. The ringleader of Jabhat al-Nusra and the Free Syrian Army, which are acting together, are plotting explosions of makeshift chemical charges containing chlorine in a number of areas under their control, including Al-Balad and Daraa. Yevtushenko is his name. He also said the militants plan to photograph and video the alleged effects of chemical weapons and show the clips to the public at large to blame government troops for civilian casualties, as well as to provide excuses for their own actions to disrupt ceasefire in Daraa. So that latest warning came on Friday. Then on Saturday, the alleged gas attack was carried out. No evidence that the attack actually took place or that any chemical weapons were actually used, and immediately every talk show host, every media pundit, every politician on both aisles, just as Tucker Carlson noted, is pushing for an all-out war with Syria. So obviously, big red flag, something's going on here. So let's back up just a little bit before that. Last week, we had Trump actually announce that he was going to pull troops out of Syria. I think now he seems to have changed his mind. I have no idea if this attack may it may have been used with the intention of swaying Trump's mind, or the whole announcement of pulling the troops out could just be a distraction, smoke and mirrors. Could go either way, not really too sure. And on the same day, Saturday, day of the attacks, the Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu made an announcement in a statement that he basically chided Trump for his announcement that he was going to be pulling troops out, and then said that if the U.S. was not going to support Israel's plans, that they would have no problem going to war against Syria on their own. Then comes Monday, 2 Israeli fighter planes carried out a strike on a Syrian air base. So we had that. Then on Monday we had Tucker Carlson. We had all the big calls for war, which is a little concerning because Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has said that if we do strike Syria, there will be serious repercussions. I don't know if Trump thinks that he's bluffing, if Trump's just, been told what to do by the higher-ups and he's just obeying his orders so he can stay in the office without issue. I don't know what's going on there. But it just seems like we're heading for war, and if Russia's not playing games, not bluffing, this could turn serious real quick. Looks like we're marching towards World War III. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but it definitely looks like that's what the powers that shouldn't be but still are have in mind, so that's the direction we're going. So I'm just trying to get the word out, hopefully make a difference in possibly keeping World War III from starting before it starts. Anyway, I'm going to end the show here with a little clip from Tucker Carlson yesterday. He had a guest on the show, a little concerned about how it's actually in our best interest to wage war with Syria, which is, I think, a question most reasonable Americans who still think for themselves have and would like answers for, and I think the answer is very revealing. Keep in mind as you watch this that it was the Israelis that did the immediate follow-up strike after this false, probably completely fake gas attack this time around. So here's back to Tucker Carlson.
Senator Roger Wicker is a Republican representing the state of Mississippi, and he joins us tonight. Senator, thanks for coming on. What is the American national security interest that would be served by regime change in Syria?
Well, if you care about Israel, you have to be interested at least in what's going on in Syria.
What is the American national security interest that would be served by regime change in Syria?
Well, if you care about Israel, you have to be interested at least in what's going on in Syria. Well, if you care about Israel,
No need to explain that. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here. It's time for America to wake up, and hopefully we can avert World War III, and hopefully people will become more willing to actually accept who the people actually behind all the wars that we've been having since 9/11, who's actually behind them, and not being scared to point them out by name. Anyway, have a great one, everyone. Sorry if I've been scattered, slow, anything. It's been a long night, late night, long day. I've got a full blog post on this up in my Steemit blog. I'll have a link in the description box. Things are developing quick. I'll update you as I can. Have a great day, everyone. Peace.